Hi, we are live. Welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa, and we're going to change it up. I was just speaking with Sean in the green room, and I know we were going to talk about NFTs, but he surprised me a little bit and decided instead of me always hustling the hopium to him, he's going to give me a little bit of hopium. So you guys stick with us, and we'll be right back after this. Give us a like and subscribe. Make sure to share this video as well. Whoops. Uh-oh, I lost him. What's happening? Why is it not working? Hold on, I'm going to try it again, guys. Okay, I can see him in the background, but I can't see him when I pull it up. I'm not sure what's wrong. I do not know why it's not doing this. Kick from studio. Sean, I have no idea why it won't pull you up, but I can see you like in the background. Can I have you kick you out and throw you back in? We're gonna try to bring him back. So I don't know what's going on with the software or whatever. Anyway, so we were talking behind the scenes a little bit about what was going on in the world. Yeah, that was super weird. He's going to try to jump back in. He said he'll try again. And we were going to talk about NFTs and all that. And I said, but there are things happening. It's encouraging. Stuff that we were all talking about a couple years ago is now finally being talked about in mainstream media. The laptop from hell people are talking about. There are over now 25 states that our governors are signing people constitutional carry bills. The New York lieutenant governor was arrested today on charges of bribery, fraud, and falsification of records. That was exciting. Let's see, the inflation rate is insane. So I think there's more and more truth stuff that we were, anticipating. They're talking about, what's his name again? Bubalini. You guys help me out. Here's more Hunter Biden emails leaking. And this Pam Bondi hearing links that Hunter Biden's been paying daddy's bills with Ukrainian money. So all that kind of stuff that we've known for years is finally coming out. So I think that's really interesting. Theta investor, am I a pineapple? Is that Theta NFT thing? I've seen Bix and some of my friends do that. I don't know about that, but I do have Theta. So I would be interested in being a pineapple. I just don't know how to do that myself. So maybe you can DM me or send me a message. So Sean and I were talking, and I think this is the kind of stuff that he's going to give me some hopium on. Oh, then we were talking about Musk. And let's see. Let's see. Oh, this was interesting. Yeah, there's old information about weaponizing storms. Here it is. This Tony Bobulinski holds press conference, which you guys, he had done this, a few years ago. And this old video is popping up again, when Biden was blackmailing the Ukraine. So it's just interesting to me that all this is like coming back around again. And I'm like, yeah, didn't we all know this? I mean, but now I guess people are ready to listen. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see because now it's coming out in mainstream media again, but nobody's getting bounced for it or in trouble for it. So maybe I'm allowed to talk about it too now. We'll see. We'll find out. My video yesterday got a limited ads for talking about the conference at Bitcoin. I'm really confused about that. I did put in a request to YouTube to please review that last video. I'm not sure why Jeff and I talking about some news on Nexo and our review of the conference would have gotten limited reviews on that. But we'll kind of see what they say. Let me check in and see if Sean can get back in. I think he's like rebooting his whole computer. So it might be just a minute. See you. He should be back in by now. There are some storms coming in tonight. I don't know, maybe it's on my end, but we're hardwired in. So we'll just keep going, you guys. Thanks to everybody in the chat joining us. Yeah. Phil said, oh, you too, Tom? Good to know it's not just my computer. Oh, and you guys, the chat is disconnecting too? That is really strange. Okay, Nana says we're good here on her phone. Strange times we live in. I appreciate you guys hanging with us here. We'll just keep rolling and hope he can click back in. This movie is coming out May 2nd through 8th. I think this is going to be something significant that they don't want you to probably know about. I thought this was a significant, another big announcement. This was on MSNBC. And I'm happy this is a Bill Gates interview on MSNBC that you guys might want to hear. Let's see. I can go ahead and will it play? Let's see if it'll play. No.
Never before seen footage that gives you a good idea of what one of the wealthiest men in the world, Bill Gates, thinks of the president. Bill Gates took questions during a recent Gates Foundation meeting with staff, and he talked about meeting Donald Trump. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, so I never met Donald Trump before he was elected. So I saw him at Trump Tower. I said, hey, science and innovation is a great thing. You should be a leader who drives innovation. And that conversation was about a broad set of things in energy, in health, in education. Big things you want to do that are big. HIV vaccine, you could, accelerate that. Be associated with innovation. And then the second time I saw him was the March after that, so March 2017 in the White House. In both of those two meetings, he asked me if vaccines weren't a bad thing, because he was considering a commission to look into ill effects of vaccines. And somebody, his name was Robert Kennedy Jr., was advising him that vaccines were causing bad things. And I said, no, that's a dead end. That would be a bad thing. Don't do that. It's clear now. Well,
Okay, so we won't get into that. Sean's back. So that was really weird. I'm glad you're back. I kind of went through some things going on, some news that is coming out that I was excited about.
It wasn't it was kind of, I thought it was interesting. He said, no, that's going to go nowhere. Don't look into that. Nothing to see there. But he was so blatant. He's like, I told the president, no, don't look at that. Nothing there. I always tell him.
Smug about it.
Yeah. And it reminded me of something I bring up all the time that nobody likes to talk about anymore. But it's when Texas went against the United States Army like a few years ago. Because they were doing that jade helm, which if this video gets any kind of flack, we'll know it's because I just said jade helm. But they were doing that exercise where people were talking about that Obama was going to make a seize for power, and there was a lot of, the conspiracies that were going around were crazy. It's when all the Walmarts were closing.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that they were, building stuff underneath and bunkers and all that kind of stuff. But in Texas, what happened was it was the military working with law enforcement, local law enforcement, in case the government needed to take over against a rebellion, if you could call it that. And they said it was like an urban warfare exercise. But then it became clear that it was for a secondary thing, was for urban warfare in the United States with our own military against its own people. And it was just an exercise just to keep everyone, on their toes. And what if? But then like the sections that they were focused on were all in the South. They were all ones that were more pro-freedom. But anyway, so they're working with law enforcement, and they were working with the Texas Rangers, and the Texas Rangers saw stuff that was weird, and they went to the governor and they said, look, Governor, we know there's all these, conspiracy theorists and crazy people talking stuff on the interwebs, but we've seen some weird stuff. Here's what we saw. Train boxcars full of shackles and things that shouldn't exist in the United States. And this is when Jesse Ventura found, the hundreds and hundreds of thousands or millions of coffins that are being stored and all that. So he's like, these are just weird. So the governor said, hey, and he went, and it's just so simple, and it's the way things should be, but it was treated by Washington and the anti-freedom tyrannical people as shocking. Our governor said, hey man, I'm the governor of Texas, and I'm supposed to protect our citizens, and our law enforcement has said that there's stuff that's just weird. So I just to make sure, I'm going to alert our Texas Guard, not our National Guard, but our Texas Guard, and they're going to shadow the federal troops. And just because stuff's weird, there's these things that shouldn't be going on, these things that shouldn't exist, and that's what they're doing. So it's just questionable. And the first and foremost, I'm not here to, placate to anybody. I'm here to make sure that our citizens.
Did we just lose him again? Did they just cut his stream again, or is he just frozen? Oh my goodness. Or am I frozen? Hello? Is Sean frozen or am I frozen? Okay, so Sean's frozen again. I don't know what's going on, you guys. It's very weird. So I was going back through to find one of the things that Sean talking about that story. He's told us that before. But one of that things that reminded me of was when Amy was talking about or brought to us the story of is it Ted Cruz just submitted for the to pass the I'm trying to find it. It's for, goodness, where is it? Exactly. It's the exact wording is significant because they in Texas, they're trying to pass a law against CBDCs that will enable or to prevent them from infringing on your privacy, like China. And they specifically use those words. So I was trying to go back through and find the exact article. Let's see, would that have been Tuesday hopefully I can find the exact article. But let's see. Here it is. Let me share the screen with you guys so you can read that wording. So under Ted Cruz introduced legislation to prohibit the Federal Reserve from issuing central bank digital currency directly to individuals. So Senator Cruz introduces legislation prohibiting unilateral federal control of a U.S. digital currency. So this is where, once again, this is all constitutional education of America. The individual states saying we're going to protect our citizens and that the federal government can't come in and spy on our citizens. They can't come in and they can't use a currency to justify spying on our citizens. So it says specifically the legislation prohibits the Federal Reserve from developing a direct-to-consumer CBDC, which could be used as a financial surveillance tool by the federal government, similar to what is currently happening in China. The bill aims to maintain the dollar's dominance without competing with the private sector. So I think that's pretty significant, and I like that they have that wording in there. I think that will be really helpful for the people. You guys, I'm sorry we're having so much technical difficulty. This is super weird, and I'm not even really saying anything that's not out in mainstream media. In fact, it's all in mainstream media. This is all things that you can Google, find on MSNBC, Fox, Bloomberg, all this stuff. Oh, goodness sakes. But that's the same kind of thing. So there is a lot happening, but we've known about it. You guys have known about it if you've been watching my channel for a couple of years, but then there are extra things like this. That's pretty exciting to see. Today was our last day of school at home school, so we're in our final week. We're supposed to still be doing our curriculum the rest of this week. So we'll have a couple little exercises, and Kenan and I were super excited to get to share some of those things. So if Sean doesn't make it back on, I might pop on and share some of those things if I can get those to come up as well. I think I can share those. We had family day, so we all showed up, and Carly showed up, and Kenan's dad showed up, and my husband showed up, and then Kenan's brother is 21 today, so apparently he found out that kicks in last night at midnight, so he didn't show up this morning. But we told him happy birthday anyway, and then his other big brother lives in Tulsa with his wife, so they weren't able to be here, of course, because they both have jobs and all that. But he was really proud to show a picture of everybody and get to share with his classmates. And then he got to read his paper on Genghis Khan. I'm trying to find a picture. I don't think there's one without me in it. Oh, Sean's back. I was just telling them about my last day of school and telling them about Kenan's Genghis Khan picture, or his Genghis Khan paper. And I was telling him about the Federal Reserve, or when you were talking about the Texas situation, I said that reminded me that, Texas took action against the government possibly doing those things at the Walmarts. We don't know, or a lot of people say
it was weird because they stopped it, is what I was going to say, which I'm not going to talk about weird stuff anymore because obviously somebody
we get in all kinds of trouble. Yeah. But this is another thing that they're taking proactive steps in Texas now. Cruz introduced legislation to prohibit the Federal Reserve from issuing the central bank a digital currency directly to individuals. And then the language on that's really specific too. And they said, they're stopping the Federal Reserve from developing a direct-to-consumer CBDC, which could be used as a financial surveillance tool by the federal government, similar to what is currently happening in China. So I wanted you to know about that if you didn't know about that.
That is cool. I think so many people go after Cruz, like, the establishment goes after him so hard because that's one thing about his record when it comes to constitutional stuff. He is very, very, very good. I think Trump should have put him on the Supreme Court, which that's something that he wanted more than to be president. He said when he was running that he would happily drop out of the race if he knew that he would get a seat on the Supreme Court. Yeah, that's something I always thought, Nancy, that the Federal Reserve needs a name change. Because there's people that think that the U.S. dollar is backed by gold still. There's a lot of people think that. So the amount of people that think the Federal Reserve is part of the United States government is probably mind-blowing to you. All right. Which, yeah, Phil, he said one thing, but he kissed everyone's butt after that. So I don't know. I think that when you see how the media treats people on an ongoing basis, that's a much bigger deal than something somebody said one time. When it comes to other people, they don't care. Biden voted against civil rights, for God's sake. Someone could say the wrong thing and get canceled, have death threats, be, ostracized. And this man voted against civil rights and said he didn't want his grandchildren growing up in a racial jungle with black kids and Latino kids, and he's still the president of the United States. He's pushed on those communities as, their savior, and he was one of the racist people. That's why Obama got in. He was the old racist white guy that they put on the ticket to appease all the old racist white guys. And then a couple of years later, he's packaged as Obama's buddy, and he wasn't. He was the old racist white guy that was on the ticket to get Obama pushed through. But that's I guess not what we're talking about today.
Well, I wanted you to fill me with a little hopium because I think everybody's down in the dumps with crypto's down. But I was trying to pump everybody up because I was saying, no, things are happening. Like I was, looking at all this news going on. I felt like things were really, kicking in there.
I don't know, man. It's so hard to have hopium because I mean, you look at the stuff that we see every day. I mean, look at Hunter Biden's laptop.
It's finally coming out though in mainstream.
Yeah,
it's finally been validated by the media that they believe in.
Who cares? It's like, oh yeah, it's real. Everyone knew it was real.
I know. That's what my husband said. He goes, yeah, but at this point, I'm like, yeah, we know. I'm over it.
Okay, Area 51. Anytime anyone wants to talk about anything, I go back to my realization as a 12-year-old kid or whatever, when I had grown up and I was told Area 51 doesn't exist. In movies, they talked about everyone was crazy. There were good people, scientists and patriotic people that their lives were ruined because the government said they're crazy. And they're like, no, I worked there. And we were they kill people. They've documented that they've killed people because of this. Mm-hmm. And then they came out and said, yeah, it's real. And nobody cared. No one went to jail. It wasn't you can't trust the government. And it was, yeah, we knew it. That's how the laptop is. It's so terrible, but it's been talked about for a year.
And so now it's a big nothing burger.
It's like, oh my God, Hunter had crack and underage hookers. And I was like, yeah, everyone's been talking about it for a year. Nobody cares. And it works. That's their modus operandi for decades, and it's worked. Look at the stuff that Schwab and his cronies are saying. It's right out there for anyone to hear, and nobody's listening. Nothing's happening.
That you're saying the action's not being taken.
Yeah,
all the information that's been out there for years is still out there.
If I went over to your house and I put my hands up your shirt and grabbed your boobies, I would get arrested.
My husband would kill you first.
There wouldn't be a press conference where the sheriff and like 100 people behind him say, arrest is not off the table. Mm-hmm. That's what happened with Cuomo. I mean, all the other little things he did, that one thing, that's like, okay, that's not harassment. That's an assault. And then the stuff that he did with the state trooper, but just that alone, that should show everybody the difference between them and regular people. He admitted and said, oh, that was inappropriate. But that was a crime.
Right.
That's not something that you talk about. That's something that when you tell the police, they go get that person and that person is charged. That's how life works. And the fact that it was a news bite and they had a press conference instead of having an arraignment, and people don't see it. People won't wake up to it. So it's very frustrating.
It is.
That's why I think
that's not the case. So
will take things into their own hands because the laws failed them. The laws is working against people, and it's not set up that way, but that's how it's working.
But I'm thinking the same thing until like today. Then I see this New York lieutenant governor arrested on charges of bribery, fraud, and falsification of records. So is the tide turning? Because more and more of these stories that we've been hearing for years that we've known about are resurfacing. The Bobolinsky guy story is resurfacing. Pam Bondi coming back out. Now this New York governor arrested on charges of bribery, fraud, and falsification of records. I mean, that's huge. And then you were like, we were talking about the Elon thing, and I go, yeah, I was excited about that when I heard, he bought the majority shares of Twitter, but then I heard he's not going on the board, and I was disappointed by that. And you were like, no, that's a good thing.
No, it's a really good thing. So okay,
explain that to me.
Okay,
because I got about 10 minutes, and then I got to bail.
Well, first off, he owns so much more stock. Jack Dorsey owns 2%, and Elon owns almost 10%. Just to let you know how much he owns. So he really shook things up. All the stuff he was saying was very, very blatant. It was classic Elon, way over the top, and he scared the shit out of everybody. I mean, he was talking about opening Twitter's offices up as homeless for homeless people, since nobody goes in anyways. So he was basically really throwing it out there that he was going to be a bull in a china shop, and that scared the crap out of the whole left. I mean, media, government, everything, because this is a tool. This is one of their biggest tools that they use in their war of disinformation and control. So anyway, I think the board, and we talked about this on the World Blockchain Roundtable, which I'm on every Thursday. You should check it out on Dragon Chain. And those guys are way smarter than me. I'm the dumb comic relief guy on that group. They could be a think tank, and I would be the guy that goes on, the TV shows and yells at people. But there's not a lot of stuff that the board can do when it comes to the day-to-day operations. There's not a lot of stuff that the board has when it comes to creative control over the corporation. The one thing that the board has power of is they can fire the CEO and they can hire the CEO. So that's where their power comes in. So all he could have done is got rid of the guy that's there and push for someone that would be more for free speech. But that's one guy working against a huge corporation that's massive. Also, if he was to take the position on the board, so the board talked to him, and he would have to sign a contract that would tie his hands, that would basically, they could reel him in and control him if he was on the board. Because if you're on the board, you have to agree to not say anything or do anything that would harm Twitter, that would lower the stock price. He would have been controlled in so many ways if he were to take that position on the board. Like, he couldn't make crazy tweets. He couldn't do it. He would be contractually obligated not to do that kind of stuff. Also, one of the biggest things, the rule is that people on the board can only own so much shares of Twitter. So he was already at close to the max. I think the max is like 12 or 15% that someone on the board can own. But as a free individual, he is not bound by any of those rules. So for him to turn down the position, he is not able to hire and fire the CEO, but he is still the massive biggest shareholder by far. And he has much more input when it comes to the direction of Twitter. He represents a huge amount of ownership in the company. And by him not being on the board, that gives him the freedom to actually do a hostile takeover of Twitter and buy more shares. He could not do that. He could buy Twitter now. He could just buy it and own it. Whereas if he was on the board, he would be limited and he couldn't do it. So he would have been controlled in so many ways to have been on the board. And a lot of people think he would, the board runs things. They don't. The CEO runs things. The board can hire and fire the CEO. So he has, this is the first step that he needs to do in order to buy Twitter or to institute a hostile takeover. This is the first step.
You think that's going to happen?
That would be awesome. That would be
I
awesome.
mean, looking through his profile there really quick, I just did a real quick scan while we were talking and showed everybody. He was talking about, the weather is fake news, and then he listed the top accounts in Twitter, and he said, is Twitter dying? And he said that all these accounts nobody's posted on in over 3 months, a year. What happened to these people? A lot of them look like Hollywood elites.
So he wouldn't have been allowed to do any of that if he would have taken his position on the board this week.
No. Interesting stuff.
So that's, I mean, as far as if you look at it that way, it's very, very positive. But you have to kind of know and understand how things work. And he posted a tweet right before the news came out when he declined, and it was just an emoji of the laughing emoji, and it was only up for 1 minute, and then he took it down. So I don't know. He's having fun, which I commented on all the stuff. I was like, dude, no matter what happens, you've made this hilarious. The stuff that he's been saying. But I really hope, and it's so scary for me that when you look at the champions of light, I guess you could say that, the people that are out there that have a platform, that have a voice. I mean, there's lots of people like me and you, or bigger, but they don't have the reach. You've got Musk, who you don't know about. You have Rogan, who I think is back down quite a bit. There's not a lot of loud voices anymore. I mean, because they've been silenced. So it's scary that a bullet could, cut down freedom's voice by half or a third. And that's not something I think that is that far-fetched when it comes to the powers that be.
Yeah, and then the tech censorship as well that comes along with it, and the algorithms, like you showed us live on the show when we were going through, just putting in names and seeing who's ghost banned and who's whatever, all those different algorithms and things. So it's pretty incredible when you look at all the tools that they have, to block all those things. So you just have to keep talking about it, have to keep telling people, have to keep waking people up, but
keep pushing back.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
But you feel better now?
I do, actually.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think there's much more of a plan in what's happening. I hope so. But at the end of the day, I'm also in the back of my head, and it's just a billionaire having fun, which I hope it's not. I hope that he cares about, freedom and free speech, because the mindset of especially young people, it's so sad. The things that they think are illegal or they can't do, that are just basic things. I think it was Ricky Gervais. He said someone they were offended, but just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right. And people really need to take that attitude. Your triggers and the things that set you off, they're your responsibilities. They're not, mine.
mm-hmm.
And our country was founded on being offensive. That's why we're here. We came from a place where people said, hey, you can't worship God that way. You can't worship whatever God you want to that way. It's offensive to us, so don't do it, or we'll put you in jail, or we'll, torture you, or whatever, or we'll shun you. And we came here and we said, this is where we're going to set up, and we're going to be offensive as long as we don't hurt anybody. And that's it. You can do whatever you want, and I cannot like it, but don't try to push it on me or force it on me, and we'll get along. And we've lost that. The country is set up to be offensive,
Political correctness is what I think really, is what that was that term that.
Yeah, the term back in the day, and they've turned it
went from being polite to being, well, you have to be politically correct. Well, why do I have to be politically correct? No, I don't. I don't have to be politically correct. And there's one thing about being a neighbor or being polite to being politically correct. I don't have to.
This Supreme Court justice is just, it's so dumb. I mean, she's going to handle women's rights, the highest court in the land, and she doesn't know what a woman is. That's it. That's the end of the line. When they asked her, can you define what a woman is? She's like, no, I'm not a biologist. No, you're a judge who's going to be a Supreme Court justice who's going to rule on women's issues. If you can't answer that question, then we're done.
Mm-hmm.
And no, they put her in. I don't understand. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they said that she's a woman. There's so many things I've read that are hilarious. It's like, she's a black woman. How do you know she's a woman if you're not a biologist? How can you say you've put a black woman into that office if you're not a biologist? And I've seen people say, hey, I'm not a vet, but I know that's a dog. It's, I don't know. The world is so insane.
They want it both ways. They want to wave their virtue flag and say that they put a black woman into that position, but then they want to say, well, we don't define people as women or black.
Yeah. So
they want it both ways.
It is. I don't know. I think
filthy.
It all goes back to the participation trophy stuff. Yeah. That argument was right. People have been not told no for probably 3 generations now, and that's why we got what we got.
I agree completely. Well, I appreciate you jumping on here with me and filling the day and making sure that we jump in and touch everybody with a little bit of truth today on Tuesday. I'm really excited. Today was our last day of homeschool, like I said.
Yeah.
And it's been a year of a lot of growth for me and for Cannon. And
are you gonna have a longer summer? Like, are you still not going back to school till end of August?
I think we start a little earlier than everybody. Like I think our year starts a little different than everybody.
Okay.
We go back like earlier in August than everybody else, but we have a 24-week school year.
It seems a lot more like European school when I was in European school.
Yeah. I really like it, and it's a great group. And he's learned a lot. His reading comprehension and skill level has improved greatly. Like, I mean, the paper that he wrote for 4th grade is incredible. Did you know that no one knows what Genghis Khan looks like because he would not allow anyone to make his portrait? This was a war strategy. In 1190, he united nomadic tribes and was given the name Genghis Khan, which is known in Mongolian as Fearless Wolf. Temujin was his birth name. When he was a boy, he became blood brothers with his best friend Jamuka. Making many inventions for his army, Genghis Khan was known as a methodical war strategist. Bravely, he went against ancient culture and changed laws and rules, which was crucial in his success. That's just the opening paragraph for a 4th grader.
He's done more like complicated stuff than I did, like in high school.
Like, I'm so proud of him.
I'm a football player, but still, we were dumbed down. Genghis Khan, that's the armor they had was just this real thick silk, but it was woven so tightly that like arrows couldn't pierce it. Like they get hit with an arrow and it would go into their skin, but it wouldn't break through the silk.
No,
They could just
we
pull it out.
learned all kinds of things. It was all about the lightning advance, which they had, you know, fresh horses every 20 miles so that they could move quickly. They barely carried anything, and that was all about like being able to charge and move fast across.
You ever listen to the Who?
Oh, I'm sure I have, but
The HU, not the old. You know,
no.
The HU. They're oh my god, they're Mongolian. They're like it's weird. It's weird music was really cool. They're like kind of metal, but they used ancient instruments, you know, and they sing, you know, in their own language, but it's in their I don't know, it's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
The Who, but it's not Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend and all that. It's pretty cool.
We'll have to check it out. I've got to run. We're picking up Carly's wedding dress today.
Cool.
Super exciting. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys all tomorrow on Woo Wednesday. And I'm a little can't believe we made it through a whole year. I never thought I'd be homeschooling. It's been just an amazing experience. If you guys are looking for a homeschool resource, check out Classical Conversations. They're all over the world. I have friends that actually watch the show. Glasswalker and The Voice also uses Classical Conversations with his kiddos too. So, all right. See you guys next time. All right. Take care.